Thank you, sir. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
And welcome, everybody. We are here live at the Breed Love 2021 Winter NAMM Show pre-game event. This is a really, really fun presentation we're about to do. We're going to deep dive into exotic Tonewoods. This is one of my favorites. I think it'll be one of yours. I have with me here Angela Christensen.
Hi, everybody.
Angela designs these beautiful Breed Loves that we've been showing off the last couple days, and Ange is a Tonewood expert. She has been working with just about every kind of Tonewood that I've ever heard of for 15 years, 10 years. How long have you been here, Ange?
I've been here I'm in my 19th year.
19 years working with guitars and Tonewoods. Super awesome. So today we're going to dive in. We're going to look at different Tonewoods. We're going to learn about them. We're going to hear them played through these different guitars that we have. If you have questions, comments, please drop them in the comments section. We would love to answer them. When we think about Tonewoods, we think about all of these different Tonewoods here that we utilize for the tops and the backs of our guitars. We're going to start off talking about kind of where Tonewoods started. We're gonna go and have a little session, a little story time, little Tonewood story time with Ange. And so, Ange, tell us traditionally when we think about Tonewoods, what would we be thinking of if we go back to the kind of original days of guitar building?
Sure. So most of us are really familiar with the sound of a mahogany back and side, and sometimes accompanied with a mahogany top, as we were just listening to Luke play.
Yep, that was mahogany when we came in. So this is a beautiful wildwood mahogany organic collection guitar.
Yeah.
But when we think about mahogany, we think about, you know, those warm classic sounds of, let's call it the 60s or folk music. A lot of that warm, really kind of gentle, earthy sounding. Right,
and so that warm kind of enveloping sound that really is just a companion to the song, the singer, the songwriter.
Okay.
Then the other traditional combination would be your rosewood back and side.
Rosewood, yeah.
So a lot of us are familiar with the sound coming from rosewood. Really nice lows and some chimey highs, but it's scooped in the middle, so it leaves space for the vocals.
Okay.
And that's really where the two different pairings had their place in the beginning of guitar building.
So Luke, play us one more. Just play us a little bit of a strum on that mahogany, just so we can hear what Ange is talking about when she says that warm kind of tone.
Yeah.
Okay, and while everyone has that in their ears memory, if that is a thing.
I'll do the same bit.
That's pretty cool.
So I think that was a pretty good example. You can really hear the difference between that mid-range presence in the mahogany.
Yeah, for sure.
To the difference in the rosewood. As soon as you strummed it, it was like, oh, the bass was a little more lively, but then you got the chimes, a little more of the high. And you could tell there was a little bit of missing in the middle there. So they they're opposites of each other.
Yeah, totally.
So mahogany and rosewood, we think about these as really traditional. In Breed Love, we build guitars, a lot of guitars out of mahogany. Obviously, you just heard two of them, but a lot of mahogany are in our wildwood guitars and our organic collection, for example. A lot of rosewood in our new Premier models that we're showcasing during these live stream events. But one of the really cool things, when I think about Breed Love, I think about exotic Tonewoods. I think about all of these wild guitars made out of woods I'm probably not even pronouncing correctly because they're so exotic, but I think about the look and the sound, and that's where it gets really exciting. And so let's dive in. I see you have stacks and stacks of wood. So let's dive in. Let's learn more about these different woods.
Would love to. So just for fun, right off the bat, I thought it would be nice to see just a little variation in the East Indian rosewood. So this is a little more traditional look with a straighter grain. Yeah. And then we have a set that's highly figured with
same wood.
Same
this
wood.
This is the same genus.
Yep.
Or the same kind of.
Exactly. Same genus, species. It's gonna just be a different cut off of the tree. This one I can actually tell would have been probably close to a limb or a crotch section of the tree. It's a little more flat sawn cut, but you get a lot more variation in the contrast of the grain lines, just having a wild effect.
This is super wild. Now, when you start looking at these different tone woods, sonically speaking, probably pretty similar.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, just really a difference in that. Okay, so that's Indian rosewood.
Right.
Beautiful.
And so another one we all are very familiar with, but I don't want to glaze past, would be a maple. So this is a highly figured maple. Again, fairly traditional in guitar building. So kind of touching on the more traditional woods here at first.
Yeah, and we don't have any maple here in this showroom to play, but if you were to play maple, what are some of the sonic characteristics that you start to hear?
Sure, it really favors the higher frequencies, so a little more bell chimey, high end as far as where it's going to land in our tonal scale. Brighter, if you'd like to use that word. Yeah.
Okay.
And then let's just jump right into our favorite. So Myrtle Wood. I brought this one in specifically at this point in time because we have found that Myrtle Wood is almost a marriage of the three previous tone woods we look at here. Okay. So Myrtle Wood is amazing in its tonal properties, that it really is well balanced. So from the highs to the mids to the lows, it just is very dynamic in the range and has great projection. It still is very responsive. So there's a reason why it's our favorite exotic tone wood from our backyard in Oregon.
Yeah. And we should say, if you really want to geek out on Myrtle Wood, if you head over to the website for this whole series, if you go to show.breathelovemusic.com, you can click on a link to look at our Winter Show magazine. That Winter Show magazine is going to have a deep dive taking you from the custom shop here all the way to the Oregon coast and talk about the different ecosystems you go through, talk about this wood, and really take you on an adventure, if you will. There's some video content. You can really dig in and learn more about Myrtle Wood because this is near and dear to our heart here at Breathe Love.
Yeah.
Do we want to listen to Myrtle Wood since we have an example?
Sure, we would love to.
Not to change the pace of the conversation, but you've got
around. How about an all Myrtle?
All Myrtle Wood, Jeff Bridges' signature model. And I should let everybody know that Luke is a audio engineer as well as a performing artist, and he records out of a studio called Rainmaker Studio in Washington. And you use quite a bit of Myrtle Wood in your recordings, don't you?
Yeah, we've got a few Myrtle Wood guitars there from Breed Love in studio ready to go. So I'm often grabbing those off the hanger to put on a record, or a lot of clients prefer some of our Oregon Myrtle Wood guitars we have there.
Let's hear, give me a G on that too. I just want to hear that full kind of, that full range with the bass. That's beautiful. You know, and it's interesting to hear as you talked about Angela, you know, you can really hear kind of some of that sparkle on the high end from the maple. You know, you definitely have that low end register from what you would get from rosewood, and then you know, certainly that kind of that warm in the mids.
Yep.
So I've never actually heard that explanation of, you know, myrtle wood being a great representation of those three, but that is a great way to explain it.
Yeah, and we could hear it, I think, right there. So to keep going down our exotic Tonewood trail, a lot of people are going to be familiar with koa being harvested in Hawaii. A beautiful, more mid-range dominant, a little more earthy, that kind of woody sound.
And one of the fun things about all these Tonewoods and with Breedlove in general is that sustainability is near and dear to our hearts here. And so all these woods, whether it's Angela or Tom or our team, we get to go to the source and really check out where these woods come from, make sure they're sustainably harvested. I think we should probably go to Hawaii and do some more research on the sustainability, because it's winter time.
I think we need
here
to
in
freshen
Bend.
up that chain of custody this year.
Yeah, we should probably go check on. Let's go check on that koa that's from Hawaii. Make sure it's okay. We actually have a guitar here that Luke can play. Luke, I'll take that one from you, and we can listen to a little bit of koa. Ange, what's on the top of this guitar?
So what Luke has is a concerto with an Adirondack spruce top.
Okay.
And the figured koa back inside.
See the back of that one. That's a beautiful piece of koa. Great.
Totally.
All right, let's listen to this one. Interesting. Not quite as much of that high end and that sparkle as the Myrtle Wood, but you know, still a great sounding guitar. Luke, as an engineer, you know, what kind of music or where do you see that fitting into a mix? Let's say.
Yeah, for me, this feels like a good strummer. So something that you know, a part that maybe demands more of a percussive element, more rhythmic part. I'm going to do a lot of strumming with this. It's got a really nice projection, especially in the low end here. So if I kind of want a more percussive, beefy guitar part in the mix, this is a guitar I'm going to grab. But like all these guitars, you can really do just about anything you'd like with them. If I want to finger pick on this guitar, that's going to record and transfer really well as well.
Gotcha. That's super cool. Okay, so that was koa.
Yep.
What else do you have in store?
Okay, so continuing in the tropics, this one coming out of more Central America zone is going to be Ziracote.
Ziracote.
And Ziracote, very dense wood. A lot of projection is going to come from this being used as a back and side wood. A little more in the low end spectrum. I don't have a guitar, unfortunately, finished right now with the Ziracote. That will be featured on our new Phoenix model this year.
Okay, cool. Very cool.
So unfortunately, I don't have one that we can listen to right now.
No worries.
Moving along, though, we have some Ovencall. This is
Ovencall.
highly figured Ovencall. This is going to be harvested out of Africa. It's just amazing when you get finish on this set of wood. It really just pops. Beautiful, warm tones.
Where you'll get some figure.
Another custom shop wood. We don't have a standard model that's built with this wood. But when you join us in the Custom Design Center, we have all these possibilities at your fingertips.
Gotcha. Okay. This is one of my favorites.
This is a really bright, vibrant piece of Cocobolo here. This one being harvested out of Nicaragua. This set in particular shows a little bit of sapwood, which is nice to give that contrast against these bright orange and reds. And then I just love the variegation of some of these black pigments coming through.
And Cocobolo, when we talk about density in relation to Tonewoods, and that's something we can dive into a little bit more here, but when we talk about that, Cocobolo is one of the densest woods that we use.
Yes,
right?
it is. Yes. So Cocobolo, being in the Rosewood family, has really similar tonal properties to your East Indian rosewood, maybe even leaning a little towards the Brazilian, with just really chimey bell-like response and the really beautiful low end. A lot of projection, a lot of sound usually comes out of Cocobolo guitars, surprisingly, especially with our sound optimization process. This is a very common wood to overbuild with.
Gotcha.
It is a tricky tone wood to work with just because of how dense it is, like you mentioned. So it's very easy to overbuild your guitar and not get the projection and the sound that we're able to achieve using the sound optimization process.
Well, I think that's one of the coolest things as well with Breedlove is you have this focus on these exotic tone woods, all of these beautiful woods, but really they're so different, you know. And if you look at, we can look at this chart as a really quick example, but when we look at these different woods, you know, they have these different specific gravities, basically different densities. And as Angela was talking about, you have to treat everyone a little bit differently as you build a guitar, or you're not going to get enough or the right tone out of them.
Right.
So sound optimization allows us to do that. Folks, if you're just joining us, we did a really cool tour of the sound optimization process this morning. You can watch that full tour on our Facebook, or you can go to show.breedlovemusic.com and you can actually see an archived video of that sound optimization tour. I'd really recommend it. It's really cool. You can see exactly what we talk about by sound optimization. But again, that process allows us to really get the most out of each of these exotic tone woods. So I'll let you kind of keep going, Ange.
Sure. So after this, I'm going to get into some fun, a little more storytelling here.
Ooh,
so
yeah.
Here's some exotics that are not as common. This wood here is called cowrie.
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 Cowrie, okay.
This is a wood that is being harvested from fallen trees that were living 50,000 years ago.
What?
So these are ancient forests. Imagine our redwoods, only the cowrie was even bigger. So we're talking giant sequoia type trees that were living in New Zealand
Get out of here.
50,000 years ago.
This is 50,000 years old?
It is. And it's unbelievable the process that they've gone through. These trees were buried in a peat bog. And so the wood, under typical circumstances, probably would have been heading towards petrification.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah,
To be
yeah.
petrified wood. But instead, these trees had been just kind of softly preserved in a peat bog and allowed the wood to just remain in this state for so many years. It's amazing that we can still use it.
That's amazing. So just like when a mammoth, you know, is preserved in peat or something like that,
Right.
same deal.
Yep.
These trees were preserved. And so, I mean, you're building with, you know, I mean, it's
Ancient.
an ancient
This is
fossil. It's not a
ancient
fossil, but it could have
wood,
been.
right?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So this wood, the tonal properties of cowrie, it tends to live kind of in the mid-range, a little more in the mahogany family with that earthiness, but it's denser than mahogany. So you do get some nice chimey, a little more of the bell tone, but it has this warmth about it. It's fairly dynamic with what it does offer in a guitar. And the figure is all very unique. It's hard to see the variation in how it moves. When it gets finish on it, it just has this lush kind of chatoyance that rolls through the wood. It's really beautiful.
That's amazing.
With quite a story.
That's amazing. Ooh, I think I know where we're going.
Okay, so for those of you that are watching out there and you see this, I'm guessing you know what it is. This is the coveted tree. It's a Honduran mahogany tree that felled in Belize in the Cocobolo jungle back in 1965.
Okay.
A fellow by the name of Robert Novak discovered this in 1975 and began efforts to try to get chunks of the tree out of the forest to be able to turn them into different slabs of wood for typically architectural purposes at that time. This set, I mean, first, you just have to see the figure. This is amazing.
It's a little tough to see on this web camera, but you can start to see it kind of coming out a little bit.
It just pops with the figure. It's so deep and intense. As soon as you get some gloss finish on it, it just looks three-dimensional in its form.
Yeah, and we should let people know all these different woods here. Once you put finish on them, like you can see these guitars in the background, once they get that finish in that high gloss, they really pop. Like you can see how, all the figure comes out of Myrtle Wood when it has that finish. And so when you get these sets treated with that finish work, they're just going to come to life even more. So use your imaginations. And this one's called The Tree.
The Tree.
Wow.
It is The Tree. This piece is kind of fun just to look at. I'll have you notice this curved cut here and a little bit of polish on the edge. I know for a fact that this set was taken from an old conference table. So
Get out of here.
This is wood that originally would have been brought into the United States and built into what I imagine to be this beautiful, large conference table.
Yeah.
And they ended up repurposing the wood to now become guitar sets.
I think if I were an ancient tree from the jungles of Belize, I'd rather be a guitar than
I agree.
a table.
Than sit in a conference room.
That's wild.
So that's pretty cool.
I like it.
Well, and last but not least here of sets that I have pulled, some Brazilian rosewood. We do have a special feature on Brazilian rosewood here at 3 o'clock, so we'll dive more into that in a little bit. But one of, obviously, the most prized tone woods in our industry.
Yeah, Brazilian.
So Brazilian, there's nothing that sounds like it.
So iconic.
It really is.
And like Angela said, join us at 3 o'clock. We're going to really just focus on Brazilian rosewood as a topic, just because it deserves its own session. But these are remarkable. Okay, so this is really cool. So we've looked at all these different types of exotic tone woods. For the most part, these are woods that you'd utilize on the back of a guitar.
Correct.
You could put myrtle wood, you could put mahogany, these different woods on the top as well. But that's generally going to create the sound coming from the back and the sides of a guitar.
Correct.
Because if we think about getting sound out of a guitar, we think about the shape of the guitar influencing the sound, and then these tone woods adding additional sound and a flavor, if you will. So these tone woods are going to be on your back of your guitar, and then there's another part of the equation, which is the top woods.
Right. Which is where all the energy is being transferred while you're playing and driven into the sound chamber of your guitar.
Okay, because
And
they're going to move, right?
So the top is the kinetic part of the instrument. It's the part that's moving physically, being driven by your play style and moving the strings and putting energy into the strings, which then transmits through the top, beginning that interaction and that play in your instrument.
Gotcha.
So the top wood is a very important part in the sound of your instrument. So where we get kind of the color or that flavor in the tonal properties of your back and side wood. The play and the feel is really coming from your top.
Okay, very cool. So you've got a lot of different tops here. Where do people typically start? Like, what's your most kind of standard offering with a top?
So Sitka spruce is going to be really the most built with top wood and is the most versatile. It's very efficient at transmitting that energy, and it has a lot of headroom. You can really attack the top and your playing style, but you can also have a lighter touch and it's still responsive to that.
Sure.
You're going to get a really clear, crisp sound out of your Sitka.
And the cool thing too, a little side note, Ange, you and I have both been to the forests up in southeast Alaska where this comes from. You and I have been there on different trips, and this is pretty cool because this is an old growth set from that Tongass forest, and this is clear cut free. This is all selective harvest stuff, right? And that's super important to preserve that old growth forest up there.
Absolutely. When the supplier that we work with, they're salvaging either standing dead. Actually, I think they've stopped doing the salvaged standing dead, but recovering fallen dead trees. They also work with old float barges. So back when they needed a place for the sawyers and workers to live, they would actually create large rafts out of tying logs together. And a lot of those logs were very nice old growth Sitka spruce trees that were being individually cut at that time. So we also use reclaimed material from those efforts.
And I'm going to show folks, there's a little photo back here I wanted to show you. This is actually in that forest, that Sitka forest, and that's Tom Bedell with our supplier in southeast Alaska. But you know, it's amazing, Ange, if you think about the different ways of procuring wood. You can simply clear cut an entire forest and grab whatever you want. It's pretty easy. Or you can do it the hard way, and to watch these folks walk through the forest on foot, find these trees laying down. You know, they've died under their own their own timeline, or the wind's blown them over. But then to see them deconstruct these trees in the forest, break them down, sometimes pack them out in backpacks and carry them out. I mean, this is a labor-intensive way to find wood.
Yeah, and some of those efforts, helicopter, they'll have to arrange a helicopter that comes and lifts that tree out of the forest floor carefully and over to the closest beach, and then it gets floated down to the mill.
Wow, yeah.
It is an amazing effort being put to conserve our forests.
And that's great. So and it feels so much better playing a guitar knowing that you're not compromising an entire forest community by playing something that's involved with clear cutting. So I'm so appreciative of the folks that do that. So that's Sitka spruce.
Sitka spruce.
Great place to start.
Yeah, and then another very common traditional tone wood is going to be the Adirondack spruce. So again, selective, individually harvested. These are smaller trees, typically. And here's just a nice example of a fine textured top here. Really clean Adirondack. This is your power top.
Okay.
This is the spruce that really you break this puppy in and you can play it as hard as you want. It just has a ton of headroom. It will respond to a lighter touch, but typically this is going to be something that you're driving and getting a lot of sound out of in response to your play style.
So like we think about genres like bluegrass, you know.
This is your typical rosewood, Adirondack spruce.
Yeah.
For your bluegrass style
just
guitar.
Just a big bluegrass monster. That's great. Okay, and then quite a big departure from that sound.
It is. So then we get into a softer, so I thought we might work through it a little bit differently here. So getting into a softer wood, this is a cedar, Western red cedar, really nice clean set here. Beautiful grain structure. This is going to offer this is the top for lighter play style. Very responsive to a lighter touch. Very crisp in its clarity, but is not going to have the headroom typically that you would get out of Adirondack. So you're not going to drive the cedar top as hard as you would your Adirondack.
Gotcha.
This is more of that intimate feel, finger style player.
Okay. And let's go through when we're done with this and we'll play some examples so people can hear them.
Yeah, that would be great.
More side by side.
I have a few examples here of redwood. So we've touched on redwood a couple times today, and I thought it would be fun to show a few examples. We've seen this really dark sinker redwood that we are showcasing on our Legacy concert that we've shown a couple times here.
Yeah.
The last couple days. Beautiful, just dark, kind of sultry top with the added density from the mineral uptake on the sinker redwood. It does tend to stiffen the top a little bit more, and so it becomes a little more versatile, where typically redwood still has the characteristic of responding to a lighter touch and having a quick response. But the denser it is, the more you can drive it, a little more headroom in it. So these samples here, this is another sinker redwood, just some different color characteristics that you get.
Just not as much mineral deposit.
Right, just, you know, who knows what minerals were in the soil that it was laying in, but my guess is this set was probably submerged significantly longer than this set or this log had been.
Gotcha. And for folks that aren't familiar with that term, sinker, these were laying at the bottom of a body of water, and so because wood is always absorbing stuff from its surroundings, it's pulling in that silt or sediment from the river bottom. So,
and then kind of in contrast to that, there's a beautiful set of a special tree in redwood. This tree is called the Lucky Strike tree. And notice just the real consistent growth in this tree. The tree was known to be quite large. It had been struck by lightning. It fell, and it was suspended over a ravine. And so it perfectly air dried. It just was sitting exposed to the air for so long that it just dried beautifully. It didn't have extra stress. It was come to be found and processed specifically for the music industry, and it is a coveted topwood for those of us builders that know it.
Oh, because if a tree falls in the forest and it's just sitting on the forest floor, like the underside of that's going to start to incur rot
or uptake minerals. It's going to change the structure of it.
Gotcha.
Where this was just suspended in the air, and so it just it was like just naturally air drying.
Yeah.
Without those other impediments.
Well, thanks nature for just making that perfect for
right?
us.
So a beautiful example of a very straight-grained redwood top there.
Super cool.
So a departure from that, we get into a couple more spruces here. This is a European spruce. It is commonly used, I would say, at this point in our industry. It's the sets we use are coming out of Switzerland. The European spruce tends to, if you think of Sitka, kind of that just perfect sitting in the middle, versatile topwood, the European is a little bit softer and responds. It's very lightweight and is incredibly efficient at transmitting the energy. So these tops are very responsive to a light touch, and they are boomy. So you kind of get the best of both worlds out of the European spruce. Just a wonderful tone wood to work with.
And isn't there a story, or isn't there like a moon spruce? Like they harvest them under the light of a full moon
They
or something?
do. Yeah, we do have some moon spruce sets left. It's going to be the same species.
Okay.
It's just the story of how they were harvesting the trees. And so during the moon cycle, it's going to be in the waning phase of the moon, which is when the sap has come down out of the tree. And so they're harvesting a certain cycle. I'm not 100% familiar with it to give you all the facts, but it's a fun one to look up.
Yeah, that sounds kind of hippie-ish. I kind of like it. That's cool. Okay.
Okay, and then we get into a set of bear claw spruce.
Cool.
So this is a Sitka spruce that has some figure, and I don't know if you can capture this at all.
We can see it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Typically when there's bear claw figure in Sitka, it'll stiffen the top. And so you'll get, typically we'll use this for more of a heavy strummer. You're going to attack this guitar a little bit more like you would an Adirondack Spruce.
Okay. And these are bears. They just have lots of bears out there that are just making these marks. Or how does this bear claw figure happen?
It's genetic. It's like having curly hair versus straight hair.
Okay. Very cool. All right. I'm really excited about this final piece. This is really cool.
This is a fun one. So believe it or not, this here, let's see if I can open this up that you can appreciate it. All right.
What am I looking at here?
You are looking at Sitka spruce.
No.
Yeah. Believe it. This log is very special. This tree was growing on the property of our Sitka spruce supplier, and they happened to be excavating for building their new building to operate out of, and they ran into a tree that had been buried. And lo and behold, it was a Sitka spruce tree. This tree, they ended up having carbon dated. It's about 3,000. It was growing 3,000 years ago.
Wow.
It was believed that it was taken down in a landslide.
Okay.
So it was growing on the steep hillside of their property, and a landslide came down, swept the tree, buried the tree. As they came to unearth the tree and cut it into sections, I was there firsthand. I got to see this. So from the large log, they buck up a cant, which is taking about 24 inches off the end of the log, specifically for guitar tops in this case. And in splitting that cant open, it looks the creamy color of Sitka spruce.
So like this color.
So it has the creamy color we see here.
Yeah.
And right before my eyes, I can see the colors start to change. So it's an oxidization process that leads us to these beautiful blue grays and kind of the darker tans. Because of the mineral content that it took in while being buried for so long, it is a denser top at this point. So it behaves a little more like an Adirondack spruce, where you really are going to drive into it a little bit more. We can, with our sound optimization process, take it a little bit thinner and get it to be a little more responsive. But this is going to lean towards a versatile and heavy play style.
So this tree was 3,000 years old.
It was, yeah.
So in theory, I could design a guitar here in the Custom Design Center that has a 3,000-year-old top, and then, you know exactly where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
And I could pair that with 50,000-year-old cowrie from New Zealand.
Is that an ancient guitar or what?
That is wild. It's like playing history.
I could have some fun designing this one. I can see some koa elements coming into it. I love the woody vibe of it.
The cool thing that, this is a lot like building guitars with these types of woods with stories. It's like it's like high-end art, right? There's a lot of story behind it, and there's history in these woods.
Yep.
So that's just amazing. That's incredible.
Okay, so let's hear some of these.
Yeah, you want to hear some different stuff?
Let's do it.
Do we have any questions from anybody back in online land?
One question. Somebody would like to know when they could purchase the Legacy concert.
The Legacy concert, the
Yes, with the Sinker
the
Redwood.
2021 brand new Legacy.
They are available now, so contact your local dealer.
Yeah, call your dealer, and if you don't have a local dealer, give us a call here, and we will help connect you with a dealer. But yeah, that guitar, I think we'll probably have to play these two side by side. But that guitar is that Sinker, beautiful guitar there. That's in question. But okay, let's hear some different guitars. We've already heard this one that is Koa on the back and Adirondack on the top. Which direction do you want to go in?
Well, I was thinking it might be fun to hear the difference between a Sitka and a Cedar and an Adirondack, just because it's kind of across the range.
I like it.
So let's see. We have here a Sitka spruce with rosewood back inside,
Okay.
and that's our concertina body shape.
Sitka spruce on the top, East Indian rosewood on the back and sides, and the concertina body shape.
Okay, same body shape, rosewood back and side, but with the Adirondack.
Adirondack.
I'll do
So
this same piece too. We got to tune up though.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
Oh,
handed you an
no worries,
untuned.
no
this
worries.
one's a little out of tune, but I'll just get people up to speed. If you're just joining us, we're going through and listening to a bunch of different guitar tops with the same back and sides right now, so we can really kind of hear the difference. We just heard Sitka spruce, and we just walked through all of these different exotic tone woods. And if you are just joining us and you missed some of this, you can watch this whole presentation archived at the end on our Facebook, or if you go to show.breathelovemusic.com, you can catch this and any of the live streams that we've done this last couple days for this Winter NAMM pregame event, or Winter Show pregame event rather. So we just went through all these woods.
We do have another question as well now.
You got another question?
Yeah, they'd like to know if the Cedar Redwood and ancient Sitka would react in a similar way to the torrefied wood in the elements.
Okay, so
Ooh, that's a good question.
let's talk to people a little bit about the torrefication process and what that is first, just because not everybody will probably be familiar with that.
So with torrefaction, they're changing the cellular structure of the wood by sending it through a heat chamber that is depriving it of air. And during that process, the cellular structure collapses and kind of preserves the wood in its state. It kind of pre-ages it, because this is what will happen to your your spruce top naturally over time. So with the torrefaction process, it's stabilizing the wood so that it's not going to breathe, let's say. It's not going to take in moisture or release moisture so much, so it's much more stable. With a sinker or a buried top, I suppose it depends on how long it was in that state. And without doing some real scientific analysis, I guess I'm not sure what the cellular state looks like, right? So it's possible that it could have already been aging long enough that maybe those cells are starting to collapse and again will not be as susceptible to humidity change. I don't collect that data, so we don't during our process. But that's a good question. They may tend to be more stable just because they have been preserved or aged a bit.
Yeah, they've already done that aging. Right.
Great question.
That makes sense.
It's a good one.
Luke, how you doing over there?
Ready to go.
Okay, so we just listened to Sitka spruce. Now you're going to play an example of Adirondack spruce.
Yeah, I'll play that same piece so we can kind of hear those differences.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
The attack is a little bit quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like the projection is maybe increased a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. So I'll take this one from you, and if you want to grab the, yep, I think a Redwood now paired with the East Indian Rosewood.
Sure.
This is on the concert body this time, a little bigger.
A little bit bigger body.
Yeah,
Still
the sustain in that.
Still there.
That's pretty cool to hear those 3 different tops.
And so let's go ahead and add in the red cedar. So western red cedar with East Indian Rosewood.
A little softer, you think, than the other guitars that we've heard already.
Going to be closer to the redwood.
Ooh. Interesting. Folks at home, which one did you prefer? I know that's challenging to decide between all those.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Luke, which one? I know it's tough. Which one, if you had to pick
tough.
one?
I am a little partial to that last one I just had there. You know, all day yesterday, I kept coming back to this one with the redwood top. So redwood top and East Indian Rosewood for the back and sides.
Yeah.
Really dig that guitar. Oh, you want to
We
try
haven't heard the Myrtle top yet.
Let's talk a little bit about, let's talk about Myrtle Wood a little bit.
Right,
While
because it's a departure from where we were just at. Everything you just played is a softwood, a very typical tone wood in our industry. The Myrtle Wood is where we really get into Breedlove's signature sound.
And I think a cool thing to explain to people is that Myrtle Wood grows very close here to us in Bend, Oregon. We've been building with it for a long time. When you think about the Oregon series coming out, that's a really great example of seeing Myrtle Wood on a production line. Initially, there was a lot of Myrtle Wood on the back and sides,
Yep.
and then sick on the top.
Yes.
Eventually,
Yes.
over time, there was a transition to Myrtle Wood on the top.
Right.
And a lot of that was due to just people wanting that sound, right?
The aesthetic was really what drove our initial prototyping process.
Okay. Because it's beautiful. It has a great
It's
look to it.
beautiful, and we thought, what the heck? We need to try this. And I think it amazed us all, and we were very pleased with the results and have continued down the road of building all Myrtle Wood guitars.
Cool. Well, let's hear this so we can then talk about it. Interesting. So with that Myrtle, it's stiffer.
It's a stiffer, denser top than you're typically seeing. It is a hardwood. So it's offering a lot of projection. There's a lot of sound and energy being transmitted through that top. It does seem to be a little brighter. right? So with the denser top, I think it's adding that brightness to it. That was the concert body we just heard in that combination. I'd love to put the concerto back in your hands because I think it would be fun to hear the all Myrtle Wood, but in the larger body now, you're going to hear a difference in the body shapes now.
Big difference. Yeah, bigger body shape.
A little boomier, you get that lower end a little bit more, and a little more resonance in that air chamber, developing the lushness to that sound.
Yeah, you can feel it against your body, that low end.
You can feel it resonate in your chest.
With these concertos, definitely. Yeah.
So, if you've been watching along, we've gone through all these different tone woods. We've talked about the back. We've talked about the top. We've started to talk about the body shape. For me, I've been trying to hunt for a new breed love for a while, and I'm having a really hard time honing in on what I'd like because there's so many options. It's almost it's a little overwhelming sometimes, right? And so, for folks that are trying to hone in on their sound, like what's a great workflow for people if they're trying to figure out where they want to live with a sound? I mean, should they try to figure out their body shape first? What's the workflow?
The body shape really should be first. That's what you're going to be comfortable playing.
Okay.
And if you're not comfortable playing, you're not going to play. Right?
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
I think starting with what is the comfortable body shape for you. If you're of a stature that you can work with all of them, then lucky you. And then it really comes into those different nuances that you get with the different body shapes.
Right.
So the concert is always recommended as the most versatile because it really is as far as
this
fit,
concert body shape
feel, and just the sound that it delivers. And so
start with the concert maybe.
So, the concert is typically where people will find their comfort zone in our design elements. But the body shape is where we would start to narrow you in on a design process.
So start with the concert. Figure out if it feels nice. If you can go with a little bit bigger guitar and you're looking for a little bit more projection, more sound, maybe step up and try a concerto. If you're trying to find something a little smaller that fits in your lap better, maybe look at one of the concertinas that we played, like this concertina.
And you don't have to sacrifice sound. That's the fortunate thing of working with breedlove, is that you don't have to sacrifice the sound just because you need to move into a smaller body shape that fits better for you.
And I think, and Luke, grab that concertina right there, and that one's Cocobolo. I'm going to take this concerto away from you, and I do want to hear, because I think I started setting up this situation where, bigger is louder, and I want to kind of put that idea that I introduced to bed, because this is a smaller guitar than what you just heard.
And a powerhouse.
Or what do you want to hear?
Maybe something with a little bit of finger style, but then move into some strumming so we can hear that thing when it really wants to kind of get in gear. That pretty much killed my theory that the bigger guitars are going to sound louder. That's amazing. The amount of sound coming out of that thing's incredible.
Yes.
Okay, so hone in on the body shape that you really like based on what feels really good to you. And then what do you think? Start playing with kind of the backwoods to hear kind of what you're going for. What do you think, Ange?
You know, I think, how is it going to be used? Are you wanting to play out and sing with it? Is it accompanying your voice?
Right.
Or is it backing you up? So it's the application, which is why there's reasons to have multiple guitars, right?
Yeah.
So it just comes into what is that specific use that you're designing. Maybe this is just a very special guitar that it's going to be a one of a kind and it needs to be versatile, and we can help you work within that range based on how you play. So a lot of it is, how do you attack the guitar when you're playing? That's going to help us guide you towards the correct top wood, so we can help narrow down the decisions that you have in designing. And again, just with the back and side wood, you know, we can help narrow you into that range based on just that kind of tonal, that flavor that you want coming out of the guitar. And then, of course, like Erica mentioned in the last episode, we all are drawn with our eyes to things. And so the fun part about getting into this room to design your own guitar is being able to look at the various sets of Myrtle Wood or Rosewood and look at those individual characteristics and find the set that speaks to you.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, look, this has been so great, Angela. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Luke, thank you for making these sound so great.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. This was a really fun deep dive into the exotic Tonewoods. If you're just joining us and you missed it, you can head over to our website, show.breedlovemusic.com, and you can watch this full video posted there. You can also catch a bunch of other earlier sessions we did. We did a tour of the custom shop yesterday. We went through the sound optimization process today. Later today at 3 o'clock, we're going to do a deep dive into Brazilian rosewood. And so this is considered by many the holy grail of Tonewoods. We're going to do a lot of storytelling. We're going to play a whole bunch of Brazilian. We're going to talk about this, answer questions. And then at the end of the day, we're going to do a recap. We're going to run through a whole bunch of guitars that are new for 2021. And we're just going to have a lot of fun answering the questions that you have. Do we have any questions from anybody out there?
We have one more for Mr. Luke.
Mr. Luke.
They would like to know if you would choose between regular redwood or sinker redwood as your top.
You know, I'm really kind of digging the sinker, especially on that legacy model over there.
I know what people are asking about here. There's two different guitars. These are the same, right?
They have the same redwood tops.
Okay,
Now this
I'll
has a
start
walnut
here.
back and side.
Oh, that's the wrong back and side, or a different back
Now
and side.
we have the other Premier.
All right, let's do this.
Yeah, you want to
Okay.
hear the rosewood, but with a sinker versus a standard
Yeah,
redwood
let's
top.
listen to that real fast. We've
You
got
wanna
that one
swap
behind
yourself?
Sure.
For the corner.
So we're gonna do a really cool comparison for everybody that's still hanging in there. This is rosewood on the back and sides, East Indian rosewood
Redwood on the
with
top.
redwood on the top.
Sure. Very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice. I totally love that. This sinker redwood here
Oh boy.
did really blow me away when I got to demo it for the first time yesterday. I'll play the same piece here and we'll just kind of A-B them. Both super nice. It's really hard to say. I feel like that one wants to be finessed a little more.
Okay.
When this one responds a little better to more strumming. It's really hard to say which one is my personal favorite. I love kind of the story behind this one. I mean, I love the look of both of them. The idea that this piece of wood was submerged in a body of water for I don't know how long, but a long time, and absorbed all this mineral and sediment. It's just really cool, super cool. But I think this one wanted a little more finesse, and it responded a little bit better, that finger style perhaps. And this one I think responded a little better and bigger to some of that heavier strumming I was doing.
Super cool.
Do I have to decide for sure which the two I like?
Yes, that's what I wanted to know.
You should probably just get both of them.
There you go.
I think. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. Thank everybody for watching. This was super fun. Luke, you want to play us a little wrap-up Fade to Black music?
Play us out here, eh?
All right.